4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Kaboom. Hey, this is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Have Danny Thompson in the queue, live, hounding this man. He wrote an excellent 2-part article on what does the NFL streaming deal mean for the NBA. Danny, how you doing?
You know, Ted, you have to hound me down, Ted. You make it sound like you were sitting out my front porch waiting on me to do the podcast.
If you would have made me drive 600 miles, I definitely would have. But what's new? How's the fam? How was Christmas? What are you doing in preparation for the new year? Before we get down to business, the NBA.
The Christmas holiday was good. I was able to, the wife and I was able to go to see Ravens and Falcons on Christmas Eve. In true Grinch-like fashion, the Falcons gave me nothing but coal for Christmas. We're used to it as Falcons fans. Was able to drive back in the nice 12-degree weather that Baltimore provided. Big shout out to everybody. It was an amazing cold experience. The wife was happy with it. And came back and was able to spend Christmas and to do what most African Americans do before the new year, get your house cleaned up. And I think we're going to be going to get some black eyed peas at some point the next day or so.
Bonus question. Did you do anything for Kwanzaa?
Not this year.
Okay.
I've done Kwanzaa activities in the past. My daughter and her mom and their family are into Kwanzaa. They've done that for a long time. This year we didn't, just with logistics. But I normally do stuff for Kwanzaa. I normally do.
Okay, cool. And just so I can get the additional housekeeping out of the way, any New Year's resolutions? Do you believe in that?
I always believe in New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
I think this year, it's just to be more spiritually, on the spiritual side, be much more spiritually grounded than I was in 2022, 23. Just be more grounded, and really just take more risk, professionally, and just kind of step out the comfort zone a bit. Do more than what I'm doing now, and just take every day by day, moment by moment, and enjoy it, because you'll snap your fingers and like Thanos, and you're 85 years old wondering what just happened. So I think this year I'm going to take more to enjoy more.
Good answer, and that's so true, because you sit back and you say, well, where did the years go? And you never actually want to be at that point. You never want to be sitting there. I think What If is great for Marvel Comics, but What If is not great when it comes to the game of life.
I think also a sports debate too, though.
Yeah. I mean, kind of. So now we've gotten all that out of the way. I want to give a big shout out to our friends at AudioPort. Danny, you were one of the people who introduced me to the great people at AudioPort. So thank you once again. 2023 is upon us. This is our next to last podcast before the new year. We'll jump right into your article, which is on latenightparents.com. What does the NFL streaming deal mean for the NBA? Just going to display it real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Booyah. Danny Thompson, as usual, writer, beat writer, podcaster, radio broadcaster, contributor, and most importantly, your favorite podcaster's podcaster.
Favorite podcaster's favorite unknown podcaster. There you
go. So, Danny, we were talking about it. We were talking about a lot of stuff leading up to this. Mm-hmm. And Google TV coming in, swooping in like Steve Cohen in the 11th hour, purchasing the Sunday ticket. Were you excited? Were you not excited? Were you kind of like Apple, you fumbled the bag, or what was your take on that?
I mean, it literally came from left field. It was kind of like the Cleveland Cavaliers trading for Donovan Mitchell. You didn't see it till it happened. It was like, where did YouTube TV come from all of a sudden? Because it had been reported, especially on this site and many other sites. And even in the business sphere, everybody expected the NFL Sunday ticket to either end up in the hands of Apple or end up in the hands of Amazon. But the NFL did a complete different strategy by going to grab another partner. They kept their main partners together. NBC, NBC Universal, you have CBS Paramount, and then you have NBC, ESPN Disney, and then the Fox Corporation. And you have all of them together. And what they did was they basically gave their Thursday night package to Amazon a couple of years ago for over $1 billion a year. And now you're getting $2 billion annually from Google. So now, not only have you increased your partners, but now you put it on Google or Apple or YouTube TV, getting out of the way and forcing people to have satellite. So I think it's a brilliant move strategic wise, because YouTube TV is probably one of the leaders, Tev, if I'm correct, in streaming cable services. So it's a good way of mixing both, and a lot of people have YouTube TV, and people who don't have YouTube TV are more inclined to get it now than having a big satellite dish putting outside your house.
True. And I was one of the legacy people that had the big satellite dish outside their house. And when I finally had enough, and this is in no way that we're going to beat on DirecTV, when it was time for them to receive their equipment, they wanted nothing to do with the dish that was up there. They're like, "Oh, hey, it's yours."
Yeah,
it's free advertising, but that's a legacy partner. Before we get into the NBA, I just one more NFL question: who gets the commercial business? We know residential is going to Google and YouTube TV. Who do you see receiving that commercial, like the bars and the pubs for NFL?
I think now, one of the things they've been wanting to do, I think bars and restaurants kind of want to cut the cord as well too. Ted, you go to different restaurants nowadays, and not just sports bars, but restaurants. And a lot of times you see them playing music through Pandora, through the televisions, loudspeakers, and the sound systems they have. I think now when you have a Google, which is literally one of the three partners that you have when it comes to internet services, you basically allow people in bars and restaurants to be able to use it through YouTube TV. I think you might charge them something differently. I'm pretty sure they've configured out a way to do it, but I think you have more accessibility and more stability, because you need stability when restaurants, because you don't want games going out while you're in the middle of the rush hour, the 1 o'clock games on Sunday, especially if your bar or restaurant's packed. So I think you can license it out and make it easier. Like I said, people have internet devices, people have streaming, people have all these stuffs in restaurants. So I don't think it's much of a difference. Like you said, it gets rid of the ugly satellite dish and you have to worry about rain.
So in the past year to 15 months, we've seen Major League Baseball go the route of Peacock for Sunday leadoff. We've seen ESPN Plus share, become kind of like the holder for NHL and also for UFC. What are some of your initial thoughts when what kind of inspired you to write the article and talking about the 2024-2025 rights for the NBA?
I think we look at the collective bargaining agreement, because the NBA's collective bargaining agreement is up pretty soon. I think it was at the end of the 23 season. I think this streaming deal is important because when the players and owners get to the table, okay, when you're looking at what you call the BPI, which is the basket, the index when it comes to what money is being distributed, the NBA is looking at is trying to gain 70 per Jabari Smith of CNBC, a good friend of mine, a guy I've known very well and come across on many occasions. And he had a great article on Sports Business about this. The NBA is looking to get $75 million from their next television deal. I think about a 10-year deal, but trying to get $75 million total, which is an excess of 7.5 billion, per year, 75 billion. And if you break the 75 billion down, 7.5 billion, if it's a 50-50 split, that means the players get three almost $4 billion out of all this. The owners get $4 billion.
Right.
So I think what the NBA is trying to do, I think how it's important is it's going to affect back the BPI. I think it's a major factor in the next collective bargaining agreement. And to be honest with you, because technology has changed so much, Ted, if you go back to the last time the NBA has really had a situation like this, Ted, where multiple people are going to be potentially involved in this, not just cable networks, streaming services, regional sports networks, how it affects everybody, you probably would say it's 2002, the 2001 season going into 2002, where NBC had left as a linear partner, and it went to ESPN Disney, the Walt Disney Corporation, with Warner Brothers Disney being the major cable provider. I think now when the NBA is looking at, like you mentioned before, what these other leagues are doing. You mentioned Major League Baseball with Peacock. Don't forget, Apple also has a Friday night exclusive package to Apple for a doubleheader every single Friday. Apple also now has the MLS rights to basically everything that regional networks had in the past. So that's something that the NBA is going to look into and say, okay, what can we do? But the NBA can also do the model of what the NFL is. Hey, listen, anybody can have a package. You put your money in. We want as many partners as possible. The NBA has a better chance of doing it better than the NFL is because it's 82 games in the NBA season. There's way more games to be distributed, around. There's just logistics, including regional sports networks, that are the difference. You mentioned you mentioned how the NHL is now dealing with ESPN, but remember, what ESPN really is doing is they're taking a lot of the regional sports networks and basically using ESPN Plus as kind of a sort of an NHL center ice situation. So does the NBA want to do that with a linear partner, or with a streaming partner, or is that streaming partner looking to take everything over? That's one of the things that the NBA has to look into. But this is the next domino to fall, because what the NBA does next is it's going to affect every other sports television deal going forward, and it also affects the WNBA as well too.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. I want to rewind it back to, okay, so you have X amount of, okay, so we have Bally Sports that came in there and purchased those 19 or so regional sports networks that were originally Fox Sports, but then that was purchased by Disney. We know about that history. Second piece to it is, I think everyone's going to watch this year what Apple does with MLS.
Yes.
Because it's kind of like, here's Apple TV Plus, but here's the MLS package, where I'm sure you're going to have to pay a little bit more to see that package, where some of the games will be available within your Apple TV Plus package, but the majority of games won't. I think the kind of the movement that we're seeing now with Amazon potentially developing their own streaming app, and we're going to get into Amazon shortly, because my only pet peeve about Amazon, Danny, is it's so cluttered. It's so cluttered when you're trying to look for something. I mean, not on Thursday Night Football. It's right there on the main landing page. I'm talking about other stuff like, what's his name? Amazon has sports talk shows. I can't find them.
Well, they moved them to Freevee and they put them on Amazon Prime Video. So I think when you mention the app that Amazon is in the process of developing or in talks of developing, I think if you develop another app, which is an amazing idea, because if Amazon has a sports department, as we've learned, Amazon will spend money. You saw the money they spent on not just for the NFL Sunday, the Thursday night package, but look what they have spent into the production of the package. They went out and paid for some of. They went out and acquired some of the top names,
Right.
broadcasters, interviewers, in the business. On top of, they spent a whole lot of money on this. So let's just say Amazon spends this type of money on the NBA. At this point, you're going to put it on the main app the same way as you did with Thursday Night Football, but you put yourself in a position where an app is needed because, like you
Yes.
mentioned before, it is a convoluted mess at times. And I think with Amazon trying to acquire more sports, an app is going to be needed to be able to provide Major League Baseball, the NBA, the WNBA. They have the exclusive package with the Yankees for the Yes Network. They're trying to get into the world of mixed martial arts. Eventually, the soccer, whatever that Jeff Bezos and his former team can do, they're going to go out and acquire it because they have the flexibility financially to do it. So Amazon is a partner. Not to mention, you mentioned before, they have a lot of new shows. They have sports talk all day long now.
Right. And I'm just saying, definitely Andy Jassy, the current sitting CEO of Amazon, smart thing to do. Develop another standalone app, kind of purge it from your entertainment application and the like. I'll just say this. It's going to be interesting with the NBA because I could see them going the Amazon route. Going the NFL route. Multiple partners, and we've talked about this in length. What are you seeing?
You know what? I think the NBA has always been loyal to two partners. Last 20 plus years, you looked at Warner Brothers Discovery and you looked at ESPN, Disney, or Walt Disney Company, and they've been very loyal to their brand, especially the regional sports networks. But they've also given teams flexibility to create their own. Now we talk about Bally Sports being part of the Sinclair family, but remember, there's still teams that don't even do Bally Sports. You still have the Los Angeles Lakers, who have their exclusive deal with Spectrum. You have the Raptors, who are on TSN, which they split between TSN and Sportsnet. TSN is ESPN, Canada's version of ESPN, and Sportsnet is basically their version of Fox Sports, essentially.
Right.
The Brooklyn Nets are partnered with the Yes Network. You have the New York Knicks with MSG, which has been literally since the existence, it seemed like, of the Knicks. They've always had MSG. So you've had different teams on their own platform. Like AT&T Sportsnet has a couple of teams as well too. So they've given their teams their own financial flexibility to have a local television package. I think where this is going to go is, how many different hands can the NBA get in the cookie jar? I think because there's so many games, Ted, like literally there's literally 82 games divided times 30 teams. You can count how many number of games we have on a schedule every year. So you don't have
over 2,500 games.
Yeah, and you don't have to worry about networks not getting games. That would never be a problem. Ted, you can have just as many networks with the NFL as you would the NBA, and everybody will be satisfied. It's just, how do you strategically schedule games to make everybody happy? Because the other part about the part when you have multiple partners is, we want to be the exclusive this, we want to be the exclusive person for this. The problem is, on Wednesday night, you can't be exclusive of something when there's 12 games on schedule most Wednesdays.
Right.
TV networks are going to want to have what Turner has on Thursdays, where you have there are 2 games on national TV and maybe one straggle game out there. You can't do that for one night a week. You can't handicap or handcuff every single night of the week. It's just really the creativity of how the NBA can do it. But we have so many games, you have the flexibility to do so. So I think they step away. I think they add more partners on. I don't think they're going to keep the same number of partners. There's too much left on the table. There's too much where everybody can eat. And like you said, you want $75 billion from this deal, you're going to have more than 2 partners, because I'll be honest with you, ESPN and Disney, or Walt Disney, especially after all the changes Walt Disney is going through, and you have Warner Brothers Discovery, whose CEO is saying, "Hey, listen, NBA might not be our primary target here. You're not going to get $75 billion out of those two alone. You're going to need more.
No, you're not. You're not.
You're going to need more. You're going to need more networks involved this time around.
Right. You're going to need the digital partner. You're going to need, and I think even one more partner.
I think
at least one more.
The NBA still needs another. I still think they still need, besides another streaming partner, which they don't. I mean, I think another streaming partner. I still think they need another cable home, and I still think they need another over-the-air home.
Okay.
I still think I think because ESPN and Turner have done a great job with the cable side. There's still so much left to be discovered with cable. On the over-the-air side, ABC only has games on Saturday nights in January, and then the occasional Sunday games. They only have like a 30-game package, if that, plus the finals. So Ted, that's the only major over-the-air, as we would call it, partner you have. So if you are a Fox, or if you are a Paramount, which is CBS, or if you are NBC Universal, there's so much more to offer. There's so much more you're willing to do. And listen, with this next generation of NBA stars that are coming in the league, LeBron James is 38 years old. He is transitioning out, as being the leader of this league. Chris Paul, he's getting up there in age. And I hate to say it, Ted, your guy Kevin Durant is 34.
He's 34.
And there's a new generation of players coming in. Luka Doncic.
He's the last of the dinosaurs.
Yeah, so when we look at the new generation of stars in this league now, I'm not saying superstars, stars in this league that will be the guys that are carrying the torch in this league. Your Luka Doncic, your John Morants, your Zion Williamsons. Victor Wembanyama when he gets over here, because he's going to be completely hyped as the next big thing.
He's going to be huge.
And then you have the guys in their mid to late 20s. Your Donovan Mitchells, your Jason Tatums, your Giannis Antetokounmpos. Those are guys. In no particular order. As Steph Curry transitions out as the face of the league, these guys are transitioning into the face of the league. And because you have more variety on teams, it should be more attractive to be able to get the matchups. Now, one of the problems I have had with ABC and Disney's coverage of the NBA, especially on Saturday nights, is we watch the same teams on Saturday night all year round. It's the same
6
seven
teams, Danny.
It's the same 7 to 8 teams. The same 7 to 8 teams.
Yes.
I think another television partner can come in and we can start seeing more. Like I said, Ted, the NBA was at its best. And Ted, I know, as you would say, you're standing your high horse. We're standing on our stoop here. The NBA's television thing was the best in, I would say, the late 80s into the early 90s.
Yes.
Ted, when NBC and CBS would have games on, CBS transitioned to NBC. But when you had Sunday games on NBC, you knew what was going on. Over the air doubleheaders on Saturday. But Ted, here's the thing they did best. They also had regional games as well too. You had the one national game at 1:00, and then 3:30 normally was regional games. But it put teams on national television. Ted, and then you had Turner, who gave you the cable service throughout the week, and your regional sports networks did their thing. I think now, Ted, the NBA is kind of weird with their package because they're planning everything around the NFL. Okay, so like now, if you watch basketball now, TNT has Thursday night basketball. And I think they have the Tuesday night games or Thursday night games. Thursday night basically being the only night of the week where it's exclusive to everything. ESPN normally has Friday night games, and the occasional Tuesday or Wednesday game they throw out throughout the week. Disney does. ABC don't take games in until January, basically after football season.
Right.
And then Ted, after that, after NFL season, after I think wild card weekend or now the divisional playoffs, because the NFL keeps changing their schedule back further and further into January. Once we get out of the first 2 rounds of the playoffs and there's no more Thursday night games, TNT now shifts their coverage to Monday nights. Right. So, Ted, there's still a growing market for games throughout the week. Ted, if I was in a perfect world, I didn't put this completely in the article because I looked at the idea of the different partners you can possibly get. But Ted, I'll be honest with you, if NBC or Universal were to jump in and say, "Hey, let us get a package on," I don't know, because in NBC Universal's case, you have Monday Night Raw, so you're not going to move the WWE out of that spot.
Right.
You could potentially move NXT to Tuesday, and then you go Wednesday night on USA.
Right.
Or take one of the USA one of the Universal partners, or even CBS can take like Paramount Plus, because if Yellowstone can get people to watch anything on Paramount Network,
yep,
you're telling me a double header on Paramount with no cable restrictions can work on a Wednesday night? It can. And then you give us some games on Sunday. Ted, we talked about this before. NBC loses Football Night in America on Sunday nights after the second round of the playoff, after wild card weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Sunday Night in America. Ted,
nope.
you have Maria Taylor sitting there with that nice, extremely large increase she got, and she was known for basketball anyway. You're telling me we couldn't get a Sunday night basketball night in America on Sunday night?
Of course.
You still have the Saturday package of games on ABC, but we put more games in prime time.
And the only reason I tell you, Danny, while I'm high on NBC getting back in there, if you look at Peacock, because I know you have a subscription, the amount of sports that they have on there.
Yeah.
The amount of sports, and I'm not just talking about NFL. I'm talking about because it's the king, and we saw during the Christmas holiday, the NFL went head up against the NBA, and with games that I would say that were B to C / tier games, and they kicked the NBA in their teeth.
Well, Ted, I think when you look at that, that's a number. But also, Ted, the games were all over the air.
Yes.
Only certain games were over the air on the NBA side. The Sixers game wasn't over the air. The Sixers-Knicks game at 12 o'clock was not over the air. That was the ESPN.
Wasn't?
No, it was ESPN game only.
Oh, okay. So then that's the answer.
The Mavericks game was over the air at 2:30, and I want to say Christmas night's game was over the air. Now, even the 5 o'clock game was over the air. The Denver game late.
The Warriors and the Grizzlies.
Yeah, the Warriors and Grizzlies suffered because Steph Curry wasn't playing.
Right.
The other thing with NBA is, and the reason why it's hard to gauge NBA on Christmas nowadays, because besides the rest, is players don't stay in spots very long. Because if Kevin Durant didn't have a trade request and Kyrie Irving didn't want out in the offseason, the Brooklyn Nets would be on television.
I clearly, the Nets against the Sixers was a better matchup. Of course, I argued to no end with one of my good friends. I said Nets Sixers or even Nets Knicks for that 12 p.m. start time.
Yeah, the Knicks and Nets on Christmas Day was basically, I think that should be almost a staple going forward. Now, the best matchup of the day was stuck at 5 o'clock. Celtics and Bucks was the best game of the day, and that was stuck in stuck in a 5 o'clock window.
Yes.
Where most people are either commuting or waking up from their nap. I get the fact of Dallas and the Lakers. I understand you're trying to put Luka against LeBron, but remember the Lakers are not watchable because Anthony Davis isn't playing. It's just really that simple.
Right.
But I understand you can't keep LeBron James off television. The only person I wish that would have been on Christmas Day would have been Zion Williamson.
Yes.
But because Zion has not shown that he can't stay healthy long enough,
I think clearly the digital partner for the NBA, Apple, hands down.
Ted,
hands down.
I see that, but I can see this is where the Amazon puts their fork in the mud here. I think Amazon could do it because Amazon already has the streaming rights in Brazil. They do I think 87 games in Brazil per year with a Portuguese team as well. Mm-hmm. I think that could be the partner because remember, once again, at the end of the day, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, he's not quote unquote with Amazon.
He's the chairman. He's the chairman.
He wants the Washington Commanders. That's probably the reason why he stepped out of it. You can't have Sunday
Yes.
Ticket and have the Commanders and Thursday night package. And once again, Ted, it's really trying to put more hands in the cookie jar. If I and I said no, you can look at the article as we part 2. It breaks down some of the partners, the potential partners.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But for me, in a perfect world, you could do a package almost every night of the week for the NBA. You really could, and it could work. It could really, truly work. And Ted, you could really honestly have 5 television partners.
Yeah,
You
I
could really,
think you model it after the NBA.
after the NFL.
And hey, I'm going to give you a package. I'm going to give you a package. I'm going to give you a package also.
Yes, and but it's the NBA needs a second over-the-air partner. I think the NBA needs another cable. If they're going to go over the air, that over-the-air partner needs to have a cable channel, but the difference is you need to have multiple cable channels. Because Ted, one of the things that Peacock, the NBC Universal does really well, and most people don't know about this, is Decision Day in the English Premier League is amazing on the NBC Universal Family Networks. Because not only do they put games on Peacock, the entire NBC family, from top all the way down, from big NBC all the way down to Bravo, they're all showing games at the same time.
Yes.
Ted, there'll be nothing
and that's
better.
What you need.
And Ted, there's nothing better, Ted, than you telling NBC or you're telling CBS, for example, to throw all these games on these different networks on the last night of the NBA season.
Right.
You know,
either that or when they want to do the mega cast.
I mean, Ted, be honest with you, you take some Wednesday night games, Ted, and you do a mega cast for games on Wednesdays.
Right.
I'm sorry, Ted, to be honest with you, I think sitcom television, as great as it was in the 90s, it's not what it is today. I think you could literally, Ted, honestly, you could put an over-the-air NBA game on during the week. I think a network that can be bold enough to do an NBA game not on a Friday night, because over-the-air Friday night equals not a good sign. You leave Friday night for cable. Ted, I think if one of these networks is bold enough to put an NBA game on a Thursday or on a night during the week, it will be, I say, if you get the right matchups, you can get a 10 rating on the majority. You get, I say, between 8 to 10 on the rating for the entire season. As long as you don't keep feeding, as long as you don't keep feeding the consumer the same 5 teams. I'm not saying put on Sacramento versus Indiana. All right.
No.
We're not saying that. But Indiana's playing.
But teams like that, and when we can include in Detroit, up and coming teams, they need a window.
Yeah.
They do need a window.
You can put Detroit and Brooklyn on a Thursday night because you're putting star power on television. When the Lakers are out east, you can put the Lakers against Indiana. You know, because you have a young star Tyrese Halliburton, but you have LeBron James on the air as well too. You know, if the Warriors are out east, you can do Warriors in Oklahoma City on a Wednesday night. Because once again, it's young star versus current star. So there are ways to get around it, and I think the NBA, because of the flexibility that you can do, because of the number of games, I think it's easier. But the NBA has to be able to make sure everybody's happy. And that's where I think there's going to have to be some flexibility as well from Warner Brothers Discovery and Walt Disney. I say some kind of flexibility to be able to not only lower their number, but be able to provide what they've been providing for the last 20 plus years.
Hey, I just want to show this real quick, because when we start talking about will these networks have the capacity to pull this off? And it's rearing a little bit slower than I wanted to. Okay. If we look at the media partners, we could see the different sizes of the media partners. And I think that image itself tells you everything.
It does.
Valuations.
And Ted,
I think it
maybe
tells you everything.
maybe Netflix jumps in this.
I think they're too scared.
I
I
don't
think
know.
they're going to focus on Chris Rock and other stuff that's live where they can just dip their toes into it, and then after this year they'll say, okay, we'll do X, Y, and Z. They blew their opportunity with F1, Danny, and you know it.
But Ted, remember, we're talking 2-3 years. We're talking 2 years down the road.
Yeah.
Amazon might have their life together in 2 years Netflix might have their life together in 2 years to put something down. You know, there's so many different variables, and Ted, it might be funny that maybe one of these off-brand things like Pluto TV. I think, Ted, if I'm correct, Pluto TV is ran by Sony, which is
Hulu TV is
Viacom.
run partially by NBC and Disney.
Listen, you might even get people to go to Pluto TV to get games.
Wait, Pluto or Hulu?
Pluto.
Oh, Pluto is Paramount, CBS.
Listen, Ted, to increase people for Pluto, maybe if you're the Paramount brand, hey, we have an exclusive channel dedicated to stuff on Pluto. And not to mention that, Ted, Pluto is free.
Pluto is free. Danny,
So,
True. If we look at real quickly, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. There you go.
Oh no! If we real quickly look at this image here, some of these smaller players, we could blink our eyes and Paramount could be purchased by Comcast, NBC. You know, I just think anything's on the table. You know, at one point we heard Roku and Netflix joining forces, but then that died. But I truthfully, from your article, I'm thinking Paramount gets a small package. It might be 20 games. It might be 20 games. And I think a better thing I'm going to do some homework before I speak to you the next time to say, okay, so TNT was Turner Sport and Disney ESPN, when they purchase these packages, how many games do they actually receive? Because if there's over 2,500 games, they're not airing 100 games. They're airing what, 40?
No, I think Turner is over 100. Because remember, Turner has double headers.
Okay.
Twice a week.
Okay.
So that's over 100 games plus, and I want to say ESPN's package is probably it's a lot of double headers on Fridays. The occasional the Wednesday night games where they have them, when they change when baseball season gets in. I would say ESPN's package is probably between that and ABC, probably about 75 games, probably between ESPN and ABC, probably about 75 to 80 games.
Okay, so about 75 is the number.
And then you have the playoffs.
Right. So I'm saying, couldn't you see something like, hey, I don't want to pay $2 billion a year for the standard package. Give me 25 games and I'll air them across the year.
I mean, Ted, listen, the more hands in the cookie jar, the better, because Ted, you could sprinkle 25 games around. You can, but I think if I'm going to stick my toe into the NBA, I don't think I stick my toe in. Like, I think I put the whole body in, and keep myself afloat. Because here's the thing:
just going to wet your beak.
Listen, I'm not tasting. I'm taking the full shot. We're not sipping here because, Ted, there's 2,500 games. Why do you need to sip a 25 game package and get less than 1%?
Right.
Like, literally taking a 25 game package to have 2,500 games, Ted, is less than a percent of the games the NBA plays all season.
Yeah.
Even if I took 1% of the games, Ted, I'm sorry, it's 25% is 1% of the game. I'm taking 1% of the total number of games.
But let's just say maybe you don't want to spend the $2 billion, and you say, hey, I want to spend, I don't know, 600 million.
I mean, if that's the case, Ted, 600 million, 600 million. But remember, the NBA still will always have their regional sports partners. But the problem with the regional sports partners is I think the NBA wants to get out of the regional sports partners. That's why I think they're going to pay attention to Apple and what Apple does with MLS.
One of my few final questions to you is, how does this work? You got regional sports, you got Bally's, right? Because if you notice, you go to a game, you have both teams announcers. You could potentially have an ESPN announcing crew, and you could have a Bally Sports announcing crew and international. I mean, you know this because you covered games.
Yeah, I mean, on a given night, you could have up to maybe 4 or 5 broadcasting teams. And Ted, so how can you fix the regional sports networks? To be completely honest with you, if you went the Apple route and if Apple does what we're thinking they're going to do, Ted, Apple could basically buy the NBA can tell all the teams do not renew your local television rights deals. We're sending everything to Apple.
Right.
And then you get a piece of the apple pie. Apple then comes up with the check because, like you said, Ted, we're talking Apple's going to have to spend a whole bunch of money. There's where the investment comes in. Because if you're eliminating the regional sports networks, or even if you have to take a portion of their games away, you're going to have to come up with a check for it.
And then, Danny, how does this work? So, because we saw a little bit with Sunday Leadoff, and we saw a little bit with Apple on Friday nights. You actually have to hire broadcasters and the color analysts to be on site at these locations. So then you get into the production game.
You have to.
Or do you just simulcast? You just say, hey, we're getting these rights and we're just going to simulcast it.
That's the same way YouTube TV is doing with the NFL. You're basically taking the CBS, you're taking the Fox broadcast on Sundays and simulcasting them.
Right.
That's where the real number comes into play, because that's why basically MLS is important. How Apple does with MLS, because to be honest with you, maybe Apple have taken the crews from each of those teams originally, their original crews, and just hired and then basically per game them out.
Right.
So I think you have to really pay attention to something like that, because there's a production cost in all this.
There is.
There's a big production cost, because this is not the NFL where it's a certain number of games. This is games every night from October through April. Because I can't see playoff games ending up on a streaming service unless it's being simulcast from a major partner.
Correct. That's the only way. But
I mean, Ted, if Apple gives the NBA $3 billion a year for 10 years to take X amount of games and put them only on Apple, Ted, let's just say you're putting 25 games a week through Apple Broadcasting. $3 billion or whatever the number is, Ted, over a 10-year deal, Ted, that's $30 billion of the 75 you're trying to raise.
Right.
And even if Warner Brothers, Discovery, and Walt Disney still give you the same $2 billion a year over 7 years, Ted, that's $28 billion. And then Apple gives you $30 billion. Ted, you've already basically made almost $60 billion, and you still have games left to go.
Right, you do.
And Ted, you still can be able to get a $1.5 billion deal from a major over-the-air partner for 7 years. And Ted, that's your $75 billion right there.
Okay.
I think the NBA's major thing is getting it off League Pass.
So they want to get out of League Pass game.
I think getting out of League Pass might be the best thing they can do. If you're going to make this package attractable, somebody's going to have to buy League Pass out completely, the same way that that YouTube TV and Google did with Sunday Ticket, what ESPN did with the NHL, and buy out completely,
right,
and pay the league for it. We're going to give you $2 billion a year for the rights to it. and then sublease it out, whether we stay with the regional broadcast, the RSNs. Because the other part of RSNs is it's okay to get rid of Valley Sports.
Yeah.
But what happens when you're dealing with Yes, you're dealing with MSG, you're dealing with TSN, and you're dealing with Sportsnet.
Right.
Because you're gonna want the Lakers. You don't want to be a situation where NBC had where they branched off those teams and left them on regional sports networks, the Wizards, the Bulls, and the Warriors, and the Kings.
Right.
You don't want that situation either, because if you have a situation where you're showcasing games, you can't have those teams. It's difficult. And the Celtics, you got to have everybody on board.
You got to have everyone on board.
And Ted, that's what we have next 2 years for.
Final question: do you see the death of the RSNs coming within the next 2 years?
I say as a major partner, I think within the next 5 to 7, because I think if the NBA leaves RSNs, I think baseball will follow behind it, and it'll be at that point. Because you got to think RSNs only will have hockey at that point, but RSNs will still have hockey because ESPN allows RSNs to still have them. Right. ESPN didn't take them over completely. If basketball leaves RSNs, it could start the death march of RSNs completely.
Okay.
Because there's only so much college sports and off-brand sports you go watch on a regional sports network that you're going to pay for it and feel like you're getting validated for your service every single month.
I sent you a note yesterday with a smiley face because I had posted an article from last July that said Google/YouTube TV is going to get Sunday Ticket. I also said that with all the other providers. I told you, 10 toes down, NBC Peacock becomes a major partner. Not saying Warner Brothers Discovery Sports is going to go away. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're going to be that third partner.
And Ted, if they're the third partner, this is not Hulk Hogan turning on WCW and leg dropping Sting. This is more of the third partner. It's more like Kenny Omega showing up for the Young Bucks in the Trios Tag Team Tournament. Yes. It's the third partner from the back.
Yes.
So the NBA still needs a third major partner. They've always needed a third major partner.
And I think you laid it out clearly. Sunday nights, you got Sunday Night in America.
And then Ted, to be honest with you,
Sunday Night Basketball in America, whatever.
And Ted, to be honest with you, and you have, because you're running partners together, I could even see Peacock reaching out to Turner and saying, "Hey, listen, we'll take on some of the NBA, the salary of inside the NBA, if you sublet it to us to market with Basketball Night in America."
Right.
And for companies cutting costs, if you're saying, "Hey, we're going to pay the production team,"
right,
why not do it?
Gotcha. Danny, definitely thank you for this depth conversation. I know you are super busy. So for in 2023, where can we find some of the stuff that you're going to be writing? I mean, where can we find you on social media? And we see you scrolling at the bottom of the screen, Danny 3 Thompson, but where can we find those thoughts?
The same place you've always found them. As far as 2023 goes, I don't have any announcements yet. I'm really just enjoying I'm getting to re-enjoy the NBA this year. I think the NBA is at a level where, I mean, there was a slogan the league had where the magic happens. And I think the last month or so, we have seen more of that slogan than we have seen in years. The whole month of December has been nothing but who does it on what night. So
agreed. And I could tell you over the years, I think this is the most I've ever texted about the NBA.
Yes.
Because usually you're like, it's usually the other way around. You're like, Ted, did you see it? I'm like, I'm not watching that. I said, I'm just going to wait until the playoffs. Something where you're sitting there and you're going through League Pass and you're just like, hey, I'm going to watch Celtics and Clippers last night. I'm like, hey, why not?
Yeah.
It's just something intoxicating that's happening with the NBA.
It's not because it's the holiday season, because you're in the middle of bowl season. You're in the middle of NFL playoffs. We were talking earlier. You was telling me how much you didn't watch any of the Thursday night preseason game last night in the NFL.
Right. Nah. Mm-mm. Especially after, I think it was 3 nights ago, watching Luka.
Yeah.
Totally become Luka that night. Become the legend that we expect him to.
Well, the thing is, it's like we watch what Luka does nightly. You watch John Morant literally try to end somebody's life anytime they're standing way outside of the center. John's going out there. If you're a basketball purist, you get to watch Jokic just literally pick apart defenses when he has that ball at the top of the key.
Yes.
Embiid is still, even though he shoots threes, he's still so dominant on the interior. Zion the other night against Minnesota, that fourth quarter he had, especially where D'Angelo Russell complained that he's playing football compared to basketball for everybody else.
Yes.
Where he stole the ball, we basically bullied the ball from a player, McDaniels, and dunked it on the other end. Those are the things that we have wanted in the league for a while. Now, all we have to do is get the Hornets healthy so we can watch LaMelo Ball throw dimes to everybody on the court. I can't wait till next year when Cade Cunningham returns to see what the people can see how really good Cade Cunningham is in Detroit. And we're watching emergence of Donovan Mitchell becoming a superstar. Jason Tatum is the next Celtic for life. He's the next major player for the Celtics. And then the Brooklyn Nets are a 10-game winning streak. After everything, the Brooklyn Nets
after everything. After all the talk, after hearing KD, who was right, who was right.
Everything Kyrie.
Everything Kyrie.
And the Nets have won 10 straight games.
Yeah. They're at 10 games, and just to hear the Stars talk about their coach Jacques Vaughn.
Yeah, and Ted, you forget next year. We talk about we talk about just the future of the league. Oklahoma City is going to at least check Holmgren next year.
Yeah.
The Thunder are going to be just as talented in 2023 as they were in 2012, 2013.
Wow.
I mean, Ted, when Trent Holmgren gets healthy, because if they're not going to be good this year, they're going to have another lottery pick in their hands. Yeah. And Lord, and if the NBA basketball gods just give them Victor Wembanyama, I mean, Ted, like I said, the possibilities of the NBA going forward, and we still haven't seen the best of Anthony Edwards yet in Minnesota. Because wait till Cat gets healthy and Edwards can get himself going on a nightly basis. We haven't seen the best of the Miami Heat, who are still injured. Ted, there's so many different, and then the one guy we still haven't mentioned besides Steph Curry and the Warriors being hurt is Giannis. Giannis is must-watch television every single night.
He is. He really is.
And that's what
that's the league.
And Ted, that's what $75 billion will get you in a package. Yes. You're being able to talk about this nightly. And if you have cable, you can throw late night games in on your cable channel. They gotta be over the air. Your late night games can have those games. And I think it's what the NBA needs. You need more partners. You need more ways to watch the NBA other than ESPN, Disney, or ABC, ESPN, Warner Bros. Discovery, or TNT, and League Pass. Your RSNs.
Yeah, you do.
You need more ways to watch it.
I mean, I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have MSG or the Yes Network.
You're one of those places, Ted, that have it. Because you could be in the Valley Sports area.
Right. And that would really stink.
A lot of folks hate it.
Jeez. Yeah. So, all right. So nothing you want to announce or anything else like that. We'll go into 2023.
We're going to the only thing I'm announcing is I'm about to go eat these jalapeno poppers the wife had made homemade. That's I'm about to go do that. That's the only thing I'm announcing right now.
All right. So we've been speaking with Danny Thompson, and I am Ted Hicks. Ways to follow the show are latenightparents.com, or you can find Danny on Twitter at Danny3 Thompson. Be well. Thank you.
Happy New Year.